From multiple waterlogged locations in Minneapolis or near enough, this is Nice Games Club, the show where nice game devs talk gaming and game development.
I'm Ellen Burns-Johnson, and I make nice games.
I'm Steve McGregor, and I make nice games.
And I'm Arthur Croy, I too make nice games.
For this week's episode, I'm doing a postmortem on Fingeance. It's finally out, and we're going to talk about it. All right. And so, if everyone is ready, let's start.
Okay, we have a lot to get to, but I just have to start off by saying, as an update for our listeners who may have been worried about what's been happening to us these past 2 weeks, as Evil Games Club has taken over the clubhouse, just want to say that, we brought in some really good pesticides and like an air horn, and we set up some motion detectors, and we think we've got it solved for now.
I've been busy Febrezing the clubhouse in the weeks since.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
But not to worry, it's nice in here once again, and we have a lot of nice things to talk about today, do we not?
I did not.
Right.
What I just said wasn't very nice. their essence is still lingering. Uh-huh. It's rubbing off. I'll work on it.
Right.
Okay. We're still cleaning it a little bit. Yes. So before y'all did a game jam recently, right?
We did.
Yeah.
That was last weekend, right?
Was it last week?
Man, I think it was last weekend.
It went that well, huh?
Ludum Dare 48, the 48th Ludum Dare. I think that's what that means. Ellen and I, as well as a bunch of other folks, did a game called Sonder, a Story. Ellen, tell us about it.
So the theme.
Because I forgot.
You blocked it from your memory, apparently, after only a week.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because the game that we made was about memory. So game jams often have a theme, whether that theme is you're supposed to use this tool, or you're supposed to build a game around this idea, or you're supposed to build a game with this art. Game jams have themes. The theme for this Ludum Dare, how we still aren't really sure how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
No.
It was deeper and deeper. So that phrase, deeper and deeper. And what we wanted to do was something that was, I think, more psychological. So we went with the kind of the theme of memory, going deeper and deeper into memory for our game. And I don't want to say anything more because anything more would be spoiler. But it is really pretty and it's got good music, great art, and some really cool writing. And it was neat because, Mark, I think you and I were the only people on our team who'd ever done a game jam before.
That's right. The reason that I formed this team was because in a gathering of game devs that happens every week called the Games Industry Gathering. It's a weekly Zoom call of people in the games industry. In a couple of those breakout rooms, chatting with people, I started talking about game jams and how my experience with them has been very much of the, if you're a person, you can contribute, right? That's the ethos that we have always had in our community about game jams. And for more than one person said I've always felt really excluded and not welcome at these kinds of things. And it felt like it's hard to get into, find the right people. And I was that's kind of interesting. I've just been lucky enough. We, the three of us and others in our community, have been lucky enough for the in-person game jams that we've done to have a really welcoming attitude. That I think the conversation started because I was saying, what you really need in a game jam is a producer. And people are like, I thought game jams were just for programmers. Everyone else gets kind of shooed away. And I was like, no, of course not. And so this conversation came up a couple of times in the night. And so I said, okay, well, Ludum Dare is coming up. If you're game, let's form a team. I'll show you that, you don't have to be, a programmer to get all you need out of it. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be in anything. You just have to be a person. And so enough people were willing to take the leap. And I brought Ellen on because Ellen has experience managing and producing on a game jam. And Ellen is my good pal. And I just wanted her on board to help me foster these folks into a positive experience because frankly, I didn't know if I could do it alone. And it worked out really nice. I think everybody had a great time. And that was my big win, is that it was a good experience for all. But on top of that, I really like our game. Like I wasn't counting on that. And so I'm very pleased. Everybody
That's fair.
contributed a bunch. We found a really good vibe. Everyone brought what they brought from their experience, but also what their interest. And so it was a good, I don't want to do a whole postmortem on that because we have another postmortem to get to today, but I had a really good time. Ellen and I think you did as well.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was nice to have 72 hours to make something instead of like 48 or 24.
Yeah, this probably will not be the last to hear about it from us. The game is available to play right now. It's free, of course. It's a Game Jam game. You can find us on the Ludum Dare website. We'll put the link in the show notes, but also it's on itch and it's hotclock.itch.io/Sonder. So it's actually an easy enough URL to say out loud because we decided that our team was Project Hot Clock, right? And that has its own little fun inside joke. That's what's great about game jams is like you develop a little culture very quickly. Mm-hmm. And we definitely did that with this team. But yeah, the theme was deeper and deeper, and there were a lot of submarine games in this jam. But forget all of those. I want to hear about the greatest game featuring submarines of all time.
Excellent transition.
Oh, ooh, that was I didn't even see it coming. That's beautiful.
You made the game.
I know.
I'm of course talking about Echo the Dolphin. No. Of course. I mean, Fingeance, Stephen. Fingeance is out.
It is.
I hardly believe
it did it. I mean, you can look on the website and check for yourself. It's it's available for free on our itch page. We'll have a link in our show notes. And we also got like a trailer and stuff if you forgot what it looks like because we haven't. It's been a little bit, I guess, we've been working on it for a long time, and I talk about it on the show a lot, but I haven't talked about it as much in recent years. I think part of that is just because I've been working on other projects. I'm a game dev in my day-to-day job now, and it's free. It's finally out. I did it. I can't get nagged about the game not being out anymore because it's finally out.
This has really changed our relationship, Stephen.
Right. Exactly, because my game is out and your game is not.
It's not. No,
the turns have tabled.
When Stephen and I met, he had been working on Fingeance for a couple of years, and I had been working on Metro Nexus for a couple of years. And in the meanwhile, we worked on Widget Satchel together and published it.
Right.
We've each been hired to work on other games that have been out since then. And now Fingeance is out and Metro Nexus is not yet. So I feel like it's going to take me a while to get used to this new dynamic.
Me too, though, to be honest.
I just need to keep with the theme. I'm going to have to make a game about some mode of transportation. We've got submarines. We've got...
Yeah, and never release it. That's the key.
Right. Well, not for, for like 7 years at least.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Scooters.
Scooters. I love it.
Scooters. Yes. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do a postmortem, a retrospective, if you will. I just want to say that like this is just from my own perspective. Lane and Charles, who also worked on the game, may have different opinions on things. We might have them on a future episode to talk about this because like there's still some patches and stuff that I need to get done because there's some soft blocks in the game that I didn't know about. So we might have them on in a future episode to like do retrospective part 2 or something. Mm-hmm. I've been developing Fingeance for over 7 years, and we've learned a lot about game development over that period of time. This is the first game. I guess this is the longest project that I've worked on that has finally came out. When I was younger, when I was like 12 or something, I worked on some games in Dark Basic. I've talked about this on the show before. I worked on some games in Dark Basic, but none of those ever came out. We didn't like release them or anything like that, and it actively like made me not want to work on games. But then I came back and I started working on Fingeance, and I'm still here today. So I guess I want to talk about like the things that I like picked up on as we were working on this 7-year long project. the first thing that I noticed is that your coding ability changes dramatically over 7 years. It's shocking, right? Over 7 years, as you're working on a thing, you learn more stuff, and like your things you do change. It's very. I keep kicking like 5 years ago, Steven.
That guy.
Because I know, gosh, didn't know he was doing with his code and junk. And we made decisions in the stuff in the past that like we definitely regret doing because we didn't know any better. But like, I mean, that's an aspect of learning. It's an aspect of growing, right? And what's kind of interesting about Fingeance is that it kind of archived a lot of that stuff. Like you can see the progression and the improvement in our code. Sort of. You'd have to look kind of hard, but like I imagine if 50 years later somebody were to open up Fingeance and like go through the guts of the code and stuff like that, they could see when like 5 years ago me now, or versus like current me coded something, because there's differences. Yeah, but so I guess if you ever want to work on a game for 7 years, just keep that in mind, that you will get better, and your code will improve. The things that you like about the game and things that you liked about the code will change as you work on the game too. Because there was a period of time, I'm sure you remember this, Mark, where I was preaching the gospel of coroutines.
Yeah. It felt like we had to form like a interfaith compact, because we had we had very different feelings about this.
Yeah. My code is still relatively coroutine heavy, I think. Yeah. But I'm not, there's benefits and disadvantages to coroutines that I should have recognized. Maybe should have recognized. I recognize now as I've,
Well, I'll tell you, I use them more than I did then. I still mostly stay away from them, but like,
yes,
they have their place.
I adopted someone into the religion of coroutines. Sweet.
I'm more of like an Easter and Christmas kind of coroutine practitioner.
Right.
I wasn't raised in this tradition, so I
don't know. Coroutines are great, though, y'all. Just saying. Adding in new features to a game is difficult, but it's possible. And oftentimes it's worth it. I think one of the great things about how we worked on Fingeance is like we iterated on things a lot. We experimented with a bunch of stuff to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And some of those things we kind of put in there because, like, I don't know, we didn't have time to take them out, but like it didn't end up harming the game in any way. But a lot of the things we experimented with ended up making the game better as a result of that. Iteration is important. But because we we kept adding in new things after the fact, the game is a little bit clunky, I suppose, in terms of in terms of how it like runs. But like it all like it is. I think it was necessary for us to do that because we wanted to have all that experimentation and stuff in there. And so like it worked out. I think it worked out really well. I also. This might be a hot take, but I also think that it's better to work with your old code than it is to like refactor things constantly. I'm sure that Mark disagrees, but
oh yeah,
I know.
You've seen, I know he does. You've watched me rewrite code as it's being written. So yeah, we definitely have different.
I know. Part of it is like when you refactor things, and in my experience, when you refactor things, you just add in more bugs. Unless this thing is like really janky and it really needs fixing. I'd rather just like kind of work around the issues or work with the old code or whatever, than try to refactor things, because like when you refactor things, you might be working at it from a perspective, I don't know, 3 months later when you have a better understanding of how your code works, but you're also still going to be making mistakes and things and potentially adding in more bugs, and that'll just slow you down the line.
Yeah.
From my experience, that is how it's happened. But like Mark does that, and Widget Satchel is better for it. So I don't think that like it's necessarily.
I don't. I think we disagree in terms of. I disagree is not the right word. We operate differently, but like But you are 100% right though, in that like, and I think it comes down to like what's permanent, like what feels locked. Yeah. And I think I'm really free with like my ability to refactor, because I very much write code to do a thing, and the thing it needs to do is what is permanent. And so when I mean, a lot of times refactoring is just renaming things. Like that's a big part of it. It represents a huge majority of it, frankly. But like in terms of like moving things around to where they work exactly the same, like they have the same outcome, but are written differently. A lot of times in my mind, I'm thinking about it architecturally for the future. The problem is it's really easy to get into the weeds on that. And it's easy to do work that's not necessary. So like it makes me more comfortable and it makes my workflow work better for me. But oftentimes I very much recognize that this is better, but it doesn't matter. Like, and so like when you say like better to work around it, like that is a strategy not to do less work. That's a strategy to move faster and get things done. So I think exactly. It is I do very much appreciate that as a way of working, even though I don't work that way.
That's totally it. That's totally it. Like, I mean, there were some things we did actually have to refactor because, like, I don't know, I really didn't know what I was doing 7 years ago, which is fine because I was learning. But like,
there are limits to either approach, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just really do need to rewrite this entire thing because it just did not work the way you thought it did. Mm-hmm. I also think that it's important to like fix bugs as you go. I spent a lot of time when I was developing Fingeance this whole time just like fixing stuff after we added things in that I noticed. And I've noticed that like it has helped. For the most part, we trimmed out like really significant bugs or like seemingly random bugs pretty quick on. And that helped like later down the line because then we didn't have to worry about that. But there were a few long-standing issues with Fingeance that we didn't fix until near the end because I just didn't. I tried to figure it out and I just wasn't able to figure it out at that time, I guess. And because of that, it caused, I guess, an unnecessary amount of stress because we left it in the game for so long. There was one bug specifically in Fingeance where like when somebody would respawn, they wouldn't fully respawn. Like I think it would like respawn 3 if there were 4 players, it would respawn 3 of them and the 4th player wouldn't show up or something like that. And then I think I fixed that bug last year. Like we've been working. That bug has been in the game for I feel like at least 4 years. But we finally figured it out, and it caused a lot of headaches because like people had to like restart the game and things pretty frequently.
Well, I remember when my first contact with Fingeance, I would see you guys running it at playtest events in the editor, so you could see the output, the console output, and and there was a lot of red warnings streaming down the console in the early days. And I would guess, and you can let me know if this is a correct assessment, is that really a result of the team getting to know Unity? Because Unity will let you run with errors for a long time. And it sort of teaches you that. And I think it later on, because like those long-standing bugs, as you were describing, they are there because you can afford to leave them. Because if you don't have a lot of discipline as a developer, there's not a lot telling you need to take care of that now. But as you grow and get better, and as the project matures, there's less happening, less wrong at once, right? Later down the line. Not that new things don't pop up, but I think your tolerance for letting those things lie, because sometimes you just want to make new stuff, and that's more motivating than fixing what's there. I think that just seeing the project become more stable, just as a result of the attitude changing a little bit. I think a lot of that just comes from like Unity lets you get away with a lot.
I think there's a lot of that. Because I think Unity does let you get away with a lot of stuff, but I also think that we just did want to fix the things at the time because they were like null reference exceptions or something that were not actually relevant to running the game, and stuff like that.
It was cleanup rather than fixing, is what it asked to do.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And so that kind of stuff we kind of pushed to later. But I don't know. Like I think it is important to fix the big bugs. And sometimes the small bugs, especially if it only takes like a few minutes to do it. Sometimes that's motivating to just get you into working on the game too. Because you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, but this bug would take me 5 minutes to fix. You fix that bug, and now you're in the code, and so you could just keep working on stuff. I think generally speaking, it's kind of better to just jump in and like try to do stuff with the knowledge that you have. I think the biggest issue that we have with Fingeance is kind of we have a bunch of things in the resources folder. Unity developers are probably I'm cringing right now because there's just a bajillion and two things in there. But that's how we started working on the game, and it helped us, actually start getting through the development process. So I think that was very important for us to do, despite the fact that I think it balloons the start game time and it also balloons how big the game actually is. It was worth it for us to do that because the game, got completed due to us misusing resources a bit. So
that's not your fault. That's Unity's fault.
I mean, kind of a little bit too. That's true too. Yeah, I think they warn you about resources, but we still did it anyways. Exactly what we
cannot be contained. You do what you want.
Yeah. But also, I think there's a best practice thing where a lot of times you hear best practice, and you're violating best practice, and it's working fine. I think there's strength and experience. There is wisdom of the crowd. Best practice is best practice for a reason. But
right.
Sometimes you can trust your ignorance a little bit. If what you see is working, you're not wrong. And I think it's easy to doubt yourself when you hear all these best practices that you're not doing. But if you're satisfied if it's working, Fingeance runs great.
Right. Yeah. As far as I know.
and don't look into it. As far as you know.
Right. It runs great. It runs great. So we were kind of ambitious with the game scope, but we weren't at least the team could agree. We weren't super ambitious with the success of the game. Because I think even 7 years ago when indie games were they were a little bit on the decline in terms of success. Xbox has been out, the Xbox 360 had been out for a little while, I think, at that point. And stuff like that. We were, we'd heard all the horror stories of people trying to get their games sold and stuff. And we didn't expect to make a lot of money off of it. I mean, no one would have been no, we don't want loads of money for the game being successful. But But we were our I think our largest goal really was to make the game for a small dedicated audience. And for myself personally, I was looking for the game to be a portfolio piece so that it would help me get into the industry. It did do that, so it was successful in that way. And also, really, to be honest, it kind of is. The game is kind of a success in it being for a small dedicated fan base. There's a bunch of people here in Minnesota that love the game.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the game it is now without that support. So it's very valuable. But the most important thing that I want to say about this game, and I want to hammer it home because we talk about this on the show all the time. Play test your games. I'm gonna say that again. Play test your games. Say that a third time. Play test your games. Fingeance. I think Fingeance is probably a little bit notorious at this point because we shoved Fingeance in all of the playtesting events, in all of the conventions, local conventions we possibly could, so we can get more eyes on the game, more people can play it, we can get more feedback, we can get more understanding of what Fingeance is and what we want to do with Fingeance. We were working on the game, we wanted it to be cooperative, we wanted it to be team based, we want the shooting aspect, the team play aspect to be core of the game. But while we were developing it, we didn't know whether or not we were actually succeeding in that. It was because we showed the game off every week and we had it at conventions on weekends and we got random people to play the game. We got people who are familiar with the game to play the game and game devs to play the game and all of this stuff. It's because of all of that stuff that we know that the game works. And I mean, it took a lot of effort. There were a lot of times when I was showing the game on when I was like, oh man, this game sucks. What are we doing? Why are we here? There was a period of after you showed the game off and kind of gotten beaten down, and how bad your game is.
This podcast is brought to you by ESET, the global leaders in cybersecurity. ESET business solutions range from endpoint and mobile security to encryption, two-factor authentication, and advanced threat detection. And they've just introduced their new endpoint security management platform called ESET Protect. The ESET Protect business security bundles take security to a whole new level. For small businesses and MSPs, I recommend ESET Protect Advanced to cover all your security bases. ESET Protect Advanced includes endpoint protection, cloud sandboxing for advanced threat detection and prevention, full disk encryption, file server security, and cloud-based console. Right now, you can save 20% with this limited time offer. So you're not only getting best-in-class cloud-managed protection against advanced attacks, you're enjoying a significant discount. Not yet convinced? Don't worry. You can also get a free trial and an interactive demo at business.eset.com/radio. Get 20% off ESET's new business cybersecurity bundle, ESET Protect Advanced, at business.eset.com/radio.
Mm-hmm. And most of it is like self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Frankly, a lot of people would come to the game, they'd play the game, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is fun." But then I'd see these little things, or how this isn't working, or like the people would have questions, and I'd be like, "It's not done yet." Those would like you'd start kind of beating yourself down on it. After a while, when you've play tested, and I think this is specific to like one game. I think other games will be different when I play test them again. After I play tested Fingeance a bunch, I got a better understanding of what needed to get fixed, and I got a better understanding of how to deal with feedback from people with respect to Fingeance. Mm-hmm. So that like when somebody had a complaint, and most of the time they were friendly about the complaint, they would be like, I would hear that complaint and I would be able to process that, and I would just take notes on it instead of like feeling bad about the game not being as presentable as I would like. Mm-hmm. Play testing the game is extremely important. It will help you understand what it is you're actually making. And it's a good life lesson too, because feedback is, criticism is, helpful to improve yourself as a person and improve your craft.
Independent of the game you're working on, right? It's like,
exactly.
You learn a lot about how to make games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely valuable.
It's uncomfortable to be on stage, like if it's not something you're used to doing. I mean, like I'm sure there are tons of professional actors on Broadway who still get like before they get out on stage. It's if something's important to you and you're sharing that important thing with other people, there are going to be some nerves involved, and that's normal. But learning, doing it over and over again will teach you how to channel that energy and lean into it rather than use it as an excuse to hide the thing that you're making or the thing that you're engaged in. And because the art should be shared and games have to be played.
That's exactly it. Yes. Yeah, it's important because it like when you're making a game, you're being vulnerable, right? Like you have to put a part of yourself out there. You're like, this is the thing I did, and I'm opening it up for people to critique and criticize and judge. Mm-hmm. So like you just have to be ready for that to be a thing that'll happen. Mm-hmm. Now that the game is out, anybody can judge it now.
Even you, which is even you.
Yeah.
Yes, even you.
There'll be links in the show notes for you to get your own copy.
Please don't send us feedback about Fingeance in the Nice Games Club feedback. They're separate things. Just saying.
Yeah, we'll take unreserved praise for Fingeance. I'll happily accept that at nicegames.club/feedback. But if you have any critical feedback, please send that directly to Escape Industries. We don't need to hear about that. So here in the middle of the show, we like to talk about things about the show. And we ask you for favors. We say, hey, please review us. Please visit us on Discord. Please, become a patron.
Buy me a sandwich.
We thought we'd try... Sorry, what's that?
A sandwich. I want a sandwich. Can you give me a sandwich? I mean, that's another thing we could ask for. I don't think we've ever done it before, but...
I'm going to write that down. Because, we have tried to come up with some new ideas. And one of the things we wanted to say is, we've got a big archive, a lot of old episodes. I think we should talk about that a little bit. We've been talking about Fingeance in this episode, but it certainly isn't the first time we have. If you want to learn more about Fingeance, you can watch one of our video episodes. We used to do a series called Code Comment, where we had developers come on and just dig into their code. We got to see behind the scenes of this stuff, and we actually had the whole Escape Industries team to talk about Fingeance in episode 99, the Fingeance Code Comment. Now, if you want to hear more of a postmortem, like Steven has just been providing for us today for Fingeance, we all did that for Widget Satchel when it came out. And that is episode 158. And you can get the links for both of these episodes in our show notes. But we thought we would just sort of like start telling you a little bit about where you can get some more information about what we're talking about. Because sometimes you don't get the whole picture, right?
Yeah. Check us out. nicegames.club. So Fingeance is out again.
Wait, what?
I'm saying that. Mark, I told you this at the beginning of the episode. It's out.
Oh, I should pay more attention at the beginning of these episodes.
Mark needs to sleep.
Yeah.
Maybe. Second time
Maybe.
Mark has mentioned memory issues this episode.
I guess I wanted to talk about like why we decided to release the game now.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't exactly a hard decision, but it wasn't an easy decision. That's a weird thing to say, but like I think there are like a lot of the reasons why we wanted to release it. There are a lot of things that we wanted to add to Fingeance, right? Like there was a bunch of features and stuff. There was a lot of narrative things that we didn't really get to put in. The whole 7 years we talk about how the Dolphin Empire is screwing with the main characters or whatever. And that's why the fish can't breathe underwater. But we kind of just like cut that. Just kind of sad. That's the reality of game dev sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff in there that like we wanted to add like some new characters and things. Like really like a lot of the reasons why we wanted to continue to develop the game and why we developed it as far as we did right now is because like there's a lot of content stuff that we still wanted to add to it. We really got to a point where the game was like feature complete, but we just wanted to add more content to flesh it out, add in more like narrative things, add in more hooks, add in more fun stuff for people to play. But ultimately we decided to release it now because like it kind of got harder and harder for Fingeance to be a priority to work on. People change over 7 years. I got a new job. Lynn got a new job. Charles released the game that, is the award nominated and all this stuff. He's famous or whatever now. We've got other projects and things, that we've been working on. The pandemic happened and it's still happening. And we have different priorities just in general. I like game dev is still important to me. But I also want to work on different aspects of my life. And so I tried to put more effort into things outside of just games. Because for a long time, I felt like I really needed to put my all into video games because this is the only way I'd be able to become part of the industry. And that gambit was successful, but now I got to work on me as a person.
There was sort of no more room left for a labor of love of this scale.
Yeah.
Like you'd given it all the labor and all the love.
Yeah. That's it. That I like the way you put that because that is accurate. That is accurate. We put in a lot of ourselves in this game. Hopefully it comes across as a big game. And frankly, the game has been in a good state for a long time too. It's not like we're releasing a poor product or anything like that. Like it's been like solid for years.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that the game has been feature complete for a pretty long time. We just wanted to maybe add more content so people could have more game to play. But
it sounds like part of it is that it's that you realized it was done, right? Especially when you talk about the narrative stuff, because your conception of Fingeance included all this narrative components, but you really never got very far with it in the whole 7 years, and then you eventually just realized it wasn't part of the game, and that's hard. It's hard to let go of, right?
Yes. Actually, that's a very good point because I think that people have been telling us that Fingeance has been ready to go for a long time. Mark, you included. Ellen, you included.
In 2016.
Yeah, I know. You totally did. People have been screaming at us, release this game. Why isn't it out yet? Sometimes you just need to recognize for yourself that the game is done. Like other people can tell you that, but like it won't feel like it until you actually believe it, I guess. So,
well, no one can convince you.
did.
I mean, I know I tried. Like no one can convince me.
I am stubborn. That's one of my character traits.
Yeah, not just Steven. No one can convince anybody.
Absolutely true though. Yes, absolutely true. Yeah, you as a game dev need to know whether the game is out. And like we set a bunch of deadlines for ourselves, and we set them hoping that we wouldn't have to break the deadlines, but like we ultimately always did until now. It just I guess we just weren't at that point when we were ready to let it go. I guess. Wow, it really is something that like games are kind of like kids, and like now Fingeance is off to college and trying to figure out a life on its own, and I just had to let it go off to Yale and get that social studies degree.
Yep. When they started out, they were just eating noodles, spoon feeding them spaghetti, and now they're off. With their own itch page.
They were they were sort of an undefined creature, just ready to be shaped and molded into its future self. And now it is the child of all three of you. In that this is a good. I'm making a segue here because the game is a reflection of all three of you in because I know all three of you really well now, and I've had these lengthy conversations and debates about like how games work and about things in Fingeance, and like I can see each of the three of you in the other projects you've done. Fingeance is like, it's not just a calling card for like career advancement. Like if someone asks me like, what kind of game designer is Steven? I can point them to things in Fingeance and say, this is what you need to know about Steven. If someone asks me like, how does Lane design bosses and levels and sequences, and what kind of designer is he? I can point right to that and say, this is a pure expression. And all three of you, and because you all came up together on this project, you blended it all together into one. It speaks with one voice, but like it has three fathers. Like and you can and if you are a person like I am who knows the three of you, you can identify where each of you contributed to its ultimate thing. And I think that's a strong sign that the game is a complete piece. And like you might have wanted to add a couple more things, you may have wanted to have a couple more levels, you wanted to maybe add some more features. What the game is set out to do, and as an expression of each of your design and production philosophies, because it's not just the things you wanted to add into it, but the process by which you made it. I mean, that game is done, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that it's done, because there's still some bugs.
You've played video games before. It's okay to say it's done, even if there's some bugs.
No. It's done. It's out. But there's some major bugs that we still need to fix. There's some soft lock issues and stuff that I discovered recently. And the keyboard controls that I put in there, I put those in like 5-6 years ago, and I never touched them since. They're not great. So I want to update that. And like update the tutorialization of the keyboard controls, because I kind of put those in last minute. Out there. There's a bunch of minor bugs that come with game development in games that are out. And I don't plan on fixing a lot of those minor bugs, mostly because like they might make the game a bit worse, but like generally speaking, I don't think that it's worth it to fix it. And I don't know that a lot of people will notice some of these bugs. One thing that I wish that I had gotten to fix is like the submarines. They have like dialogue bubbles that pop up sometimes when like the characters in the submarines are speaking. And I love that feature because like it adds some character to each of the characters.
Yeah.
But like the dialogue bubbles kind of get cut off if you're on the left side of the screen, which isn't, so you can't read the text.
Yeah. Well, if you want to hear what they're saying, then don't be so scared. Get out into the field.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it ends. Not a bug.
Well, yeah, it ends up adding flavor in a different way, and I think that is cool and things like that. But I think it would have been.
You gotta think of return on investment. Like this isn't about selling copies because you put out the game for free. It's about deciding what's worth it. And now that you are a professional game developer, you have a much better sense of what's worth your time.
Yeah, so soft lock bugs, probably worth it to fix those, but but some of the minor bugs I'm not planning on touching unless it takes me a few minutes to fix. I guess the question I want to end on is like for myself. I'm asking this to myself and answering it for y'all and listeners. I don't know. Has it paid off? Was it worth it? That's 2 questions. Yes. 1,000 times yes. It definitely was. The game is good.
Mm-hmm. So 500 each for those 2 questions then.
Right. Okay. 500 each for the 2 questions. Yes.
Just doing the math.
Thank you for doing the math, but I couldn't. I can't count to 2. The game is good, and it got me the job that I have now. So like it technically, paid for itself because like I've been earning a salary for the past 3 years.
Woo!
Right? Absolutely, fool. And I'm really proud of what the game, like what Mark was saying, like it is like I put pieces of myself in it. Things that I like and enjoy about video games are in Fingeance, and other people can experience those kinds of things. And I think that's very gratifying and satisfying and relieving to like have that out and have that available for people to actually play and enjoy. That's very satisfying. When we released Widget Satchel, I was very satisfied with when that game came out. We put a lot of ourselves in it, and now other people can play them and enjoy the game. I feel that same way with Fingeance. Like now it's out and people can download it and play it. And even though it's got some things in it that are, that are buggy, maybe some things that aren't quite fully thought out, it's fine because like the game is out and available for people to enjoy in the way that they want to enjoy it. And I think that that's very powerful. I think that that's something that when you release a game, that's something you can say that you did, is that potentially influence, like you've given somebody a part of yourself. Yeah, I don't know, that's really cool that we could do that. Like, that's why we're making games. That's why I'm making games, is because I want to be able to communicate to other people parts of myself that are hard to communicate without actively, making a game and showing it to people. This is a method of communication. It's a method of expression. And Fingeance is expressing 7 years of development time, 7 years of myself, how I've grown and changed. It's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. But also, when I patch the game, I can add patch notes to the game. And for some reason, I'm really excited about that. I don't know.
That's really exciting for me too. I want to read Steven's patch notes. I've never wanted to read patch notes ever.
I'll be like, fixed softlog bug where blah blah blah, just blah blah blah, and like people can read that, and I don't know why that's exciting to me. I did that for Treasure Stack too. Like, I was like, we should put patch notes in Treasure Stack. No, it's just like, nobody wants to read patch notes for Treasure Stack. I did it anyways. I put that mess in the game because I was excited.
Cool. It's like, I did these things.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So that's it. Do y'all have questions?
Well, I will say, my husband Eric loves Fingeance. He's one of the people who's like, you should ship this so I can play it.
Yeah. Yes.
And we were hoping to play it for our weekly Saturday night date night, but we got wrapped up with some family stuff. So it's probably on the docket for next week. Yay. If you do get those patch notes out, let me know. And that'll be the preamble. Like, so, Eric, this isn't even the first, this is the updated version. Here are all the things Steven's done in the last 2 weeks, just for you.
Yeah. I'll put in a note for you. Patch notes.
Well, I kind of wanted to ask a little bit about your decision to release it for free. Because I think anyone who has played Fingeance knows it's worth real money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even years ago when we were all telling you it's good enough to ship, that's a game that I think is worth paying for. And I think everyone, certainly listeners to the show that we've been telling you, get Fingeance. I mean, like, we're not just supporting Steven. Like, we are all big believers in this game. And if you can, you can get it for free. You have no excuse. It's great couch co-op. It's great over Parsec. You can play with friends online.
Right. Yeah.
And I think there's certainly the obvious answer, which is just it's easier to get into people's hands. And leverage with what you were talking about before. Like, it was more important for you to get it out. But I want to hear a little bit about the discussions. Because this must have started a long time ago. Like, how it was going to be released, in what form, and at what cost.
If I remember correctly, and I'm sure that Lane or Charles will correct me on this because I might get it wrong. I was the one who probably proposed it to be free in the first place. For me, it was a higher priority to have the game out than it was for us to make money off it. I know that, like, we had never anticipated making a ton of money on the game. I think we all, still expected to, like, charge for the game, not just because that's what everybody does, but because, like, the game is worth money, right? Like, it's not like we spent 7 years working on this game. I think for me personally, like, it kind of was a deterrent from actually releasing the game. I think is that I have to deal with the money, which maybe isn't a great thing to say as somebody who's been trying to get people to sell their games for more for larger amounts of money. Like, I don't want you to sell. People shouldn't sell their games for $5. They should sell it for $15.
It's the official stance of this podcast that you've priced your game too low.
Yeah, that's true. And here I am releasing the game for free. I guess, like, but I think that it was a deterrent from actually releasing the game. A small part of it is like Escape Industries, despite the fact that I kept saying I would do it, has never been a business entity, and so we never like established that as a thing. We never like created a contract. We never like even made a verbal contract that we'd like split it 3 ways or anything like that. And so like that, I think that was it. That was a factor. I don't know. I think that part of it is also just like it being free means that anyone can play it and anyone can experience it. And I personally, I think that's more important for Fingeance specifically than charging for it. Yeah. And it makes it sound like it's an art piece, but it kind of, it sort of is, I guess. It does feel like an art piece, and it also feels like an archival piece too. Like, it's an archive of like 7 years of development. This is what we finally brought to the table. This is what you see. And I think that on some level it felt weird to charge for that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not. I'm not trying to justify it because I can't really justify it. We made the decision.
I mean, it kind of comes
that's
down
kinda
to
what
you just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Like, charge.
That's
yeah.
fine.
Like, I mean,
throwing a lot of reasons out, but yeah.
I think a lot of the reasons why people make their games cheap is out of fear.
Yeah.
Right. It's fear that it's not going to sell enough copies. Fear that like you don't have enough a marketing budget to justify it. Fear that gamers will react badly and give it a bad reputation for not being worth X amount of dollars for X number of hours, whatever. A lot of it's driven by fear. And I think when we on the podcast say you're pricing your game too low, I think what we're trying to say is, stand up to that fear, right? Like, and to know that your project, your time, your expertise is worth more. But hearing you describe it, I don't want to let you fully off the hook.
Sure.
But I'm not hearing a lot of that fear. In your justification. A lot of it just seems like a lack of interest in it, particularly because what this project means to you. Mm-hmm. You're not like you could have formed a business entity and you didn't. You could have thought about how you might release it and promote it, and it just wasn't interesting to you. I there might be a little bit of like it's a hard thing, so you don't want to do it. But but just the way you describe it, it just sounds like you got everything you wanted out of it. You weren't interested in anything else. That's the main thing I'm hearing.
That's basically it. Yeah, I got what I wanted out of Fingeance. And I'm very satisfied with the end result. So,
yay!
Yeah. So like, I didn't need to charge it. Like, charge for it. Because I didn't feel that it was necessary.
And lucky you, dear listener, for that, because you can go and download Fingeance for freezies and play it all your live long days.
And look forward to the patch notes too that'll be coming out soon.
Also free of charge.
Also free patch notes. Now, what kind of it's such a great deal. Such a great deal.
That's 1.0.1 for the price of one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the lovingly crafted prose that Stephen will write into those patch notes. Poetry.
Okay, that now it's sounding like a bunch of effort. I didn't want to put that much effort into the patch notes.
Oops.
That's our show. Check out our website, nicegames.club, for show notes and links to resources on today's topics. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode and on our programming in general. Go to nicegames.club/feedback and tell us what you think. But don't send Fingeance feedback. Send that to Escape Industries on Twitter. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter at Nice Games Club, where Dale tweets about game dev resources and Fingeance retweets. Or you can email us through contact@nicegames.club. Want to support the show? There are so many ways. Give us a review on your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about your favorite episodes. Join us on Discord by visiting nicegames.club/Discord. And now we're on Patreon. As a patron of the show, you'll enjoy bonus content, extra jokes, and more. Sign up at patreon.com/nicegamesclub.
So go download Fingeance. And until we start again, remember to
play nice
and play Fingeance.
But don't send Fingeance feedback. Send that to Escape Industries on Twitter at ESE. Well, how do you? Well, there'll be a link. There'll be a link. Okay.
And do a group postmortem. Group post. I'm not going to be able to say it, am I? A group postmortem. A group retrospective. I like retrospective better than postmortem because maybe it didn't die. You know, maybe you saved that patient.